welcome back to Liking Hiking. So we have a 3-part special, so this is part 1. Stay tuned, fortnightly installments of what happens when things go wrong. So as you can see, this is Kirsty I have with me today, and she is wearing a moon boot.
Yes, it's a long story.
It is a long story, which we'll get into in a moment. So we're very excited to share it with, well, okay, that's the wrong one. We're very keen to share it with you guys so that hopefully you learn from our mistakes and you don't do the same thing. So yes, it's quite the story. So this will be part 1 and we'll share most of that story with you. And then in our next part 2, then we will sort of go into, actually no, I'm not going to tell you. Stay tuned for part 2, because if I tell you about part 2, it'll give too much away. And then part 3, we're going to go into more the techie side of things. So definitely stay tuned for them. So anyway, this is, you might have heard me talking about that long weekend that everyone did without me. So
Apparently, we can't hike without Rochelle.
I just want to point out, what happens when I'm not there. So how did your hike go?
Well, nothing went to plan, basically. We started off great. There was 4 of us hiking. And one person who'd never hiked a multi-day hike before. So we were looking after her, making sure she was all good. And about 11 o'clock on the first morning, she slightly rolled her ankle, just slightly, and we stopped and were kind of working out. We'd done about 10 Ks or so, I reckon, by that point, and we were like, oh, it's closer to our dinner stop than going back to the car. And I carry tape for my knee from an old injury, so we taped up her ankle and hobbled on to get to our lunch stop, and then we made that our dinner stop and stopped for the day to rest her foot. So we actually started our hike a day behind in schedule, and yeah,
so
nothing really went well.
At what point did I hear from you? So okay, I had something on. I had a first aid course, actually, ironically, on the weekend, so that I had to attend, and I got a phone call from these girls on
like 2 days later, was it, that we rang you about Sarah?
You rang me on the public holiday, the Thursday.
Yeah, so the day after. Sarah did it on the Wednesday.
Okay, yeah.
And we told you the day after, yeah.
So you stopped at your lunch stop.
Yeah,
for
and
the night?
we made that our dinner stop. It had a water tank. It was Mount Arden South, where you were at the next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And we stopped there. We camped there. Made Sarah put her foot up.
Nice camp. So were you actually aiming to get to Air Depot that day, were you?
Yeah, we were aiming for Air Depot.
Could have been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. And then we rested there, and because we'd gotten there about 3 o'clock, so it was a significant amount of time for a rest. And then we got up the next morning. Sarah's foot was better, but not 100%. So we still had it taped, and we decided that we were going to go to Air Depot for lunch, which was our original dinner stop from the night before. By the time we got to Air Depot, it was about 1:30, and Sarah didn't want to go anymore. Perfectly fine. Her foot was still swollen a little bit and still sore. And then we sat down and we discussed that, seeing as the car was still 100 Ks away at the other end, Hannah and Courtney would leave us at Air Depot and continue on and go get the other car, whereas me and Sarah would take a rest day at Air Depot and do 0 Ks, and then the next day, which would be the Saturday, so we'd rest for the Friday, and then the Saturday we would continue on to Dutchman's Hut, which was only another 17 Ks, was it? I think.
Less. I'm pretty sure Dutchman's Hut from Air Depot 16.
16
yeah.
Ks. It was only going to be a short day, and Dutchman's Hut's accessible by road, so we would just stay there and they would come get us at the end of the hike. That's when we rang Shell.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there on the public holiday on the Thursday, enjoying my day off from work, and I get this phone call and I'm like, what? So it was good actually, because they were changing their plans, but they had some phone reception. They actually made a point to call someone and be like, look, our plans are changing. And of course I was at home with a laptop and, as much fast Wi-Fi as one could ever want. So I was like, Googling some different things for them, some of the, distances, and we were sort of toying up a few different ideas, I think, just, making sure that it was going to be okay. So in the end we decided, look, possibly it could have been, if it was like a safety thing, it could have been safer for the girls to go back to the first car, and sort of like just meet them at Dutchman's, or even hike back in, find them and hike back out to Dutchman's all together.
Yeah.
But I think we decided, look, the injury, from what I understood of Sarah's, was really
Minor,
very minor, and definitely up to 16 Ks. So we're like, okay, yep. You spent a whole day at Air Depot. I feel so sorry for you.
It was actually a day and a half, because remember, we got there on the Friday, or the Thursday? The Thursday. We got there on the Thursday at about 1 o'clock, 1:30ish. So the rest of that day, and then all of the Friday. And I believe you saw Air Depot in one of Shell's recent videos.
Yeah, if you want to see Air Depot, I'll link it up the top for you, but it's nothing exciting. I mean, it's a camp.
It's a camp.
Got
stunning view of the hills and things, the valleys out in front of you. Absolutely nothing. We resorted to playing sticks and stones, aka noughts and crosses, about 3 hours in, because we were that bored already. And we made a small campfire, and sat around that trying to keep the flies off. We ended up just napping in the middle of the day because there was nothing going on. And Sarah's actually German, so I learnt many things about Germany that I had never known, and I can sing some songs in German now, but it was the most boring day I've ever spent. It was adventurous.
Yep. Yeah, well, okay, so that brings us to Saturday now.
Yes.
So
Saturday, we get up at 6 o'clock, the standard. Get up, get organised. We packed everything up. Hannah and Courtney had actually taken a few of Sarah's kit things and taken them on to Dutchman's and left them there, because there was only 16 Ks to carry extra heavy stuff. So we only had the one tent and, half of the stuff. So our packs were significantly lighter. And we headed off, and we went at, Sarah's foot was completely fine. We went at a completely normal pace. I reckon we'd done over 10 Ks easily by the morning. And then we went along, because when you leave Air Depot, you follow the fence for about 8 Ks.
A long time.
It's a long time. You're basically straight ahead following a fence. You can't get lost. Up and down creek beds and following along the fence. And then you turn off from the fence and you go up some hills and kind of around, heading up into the mountains again. And we entered.
Just as context, so if you have watched my previous video, you would have seen the little green plant things coming up. That was along the fence line, the dead boring bit.
Yeah.
And then when I filmed when it was really foggy, that's sort of the area we're talking about now, that more hilly area.
Yeah, and we just were going up and down, and some of those hills had quite loose shale on them, and I'm a uncoordinated at best of times, so I always use my hiking poles. They were a birthday gift from Shell and Hannah, and they saved my life many times. And some of those hills we went down really slowly. Sarah, because she was still worried about her foot, and me just because I'm a general uncoordinated mess. And we just hit the edge of it's not Mount Remarkable, Dutchman Stern Conservation Park. We went through gate 10, and we walked about 20 metres, I would say, inside Dutchman Stern Conservation Park Gate 10. And it's not even a steep hill, it's just a slight incline, or I was heading down, slight descent, kind of loosey shaly, and my foot just went like that, and I fell and screamed very loudly. Luckily, I think my hiking poles kept me from falling forwards, so I fell backwards and landed on my back, and I scraped my elbow, but the rest of me was completely fine, almost.
Oh dear. So at what point did you go, no, there's actually something seriously wrong here?
Pretty much as soon as I did it, I heard a crack,
Oh.
and I rolled over, because I was like choking myself with my backpack. I rolled over, I think I screamed again, probably. By that point, Sarah had run up to me, and she got my backpack off, and I picked up my leg, and my foot was slightly to an angle, and I was like, I don't think I'm doing that with like my own leg muscles, so I straightened it back up, and then I put it on Sarah's backpack, I believe, or my backpack, I can't remember. We put it on a backpack, still in its shoe, and I went, I'm not walking anywhere anytime soon. It's been 5 weeks since I walked, actually.
Yeah, so you're lying there on the ground,
Yes.
in the middle of literally nowhere.
Yes.
So sort of what was your thought process about, like, next steps, or was it just like all pain, or
Well, at first it was pain, and luckily I had Sarah with me. It would have been quite scary on my own, and quite hard to reach things, but I carry painkillers with me when hiking, because hiker hobble is a thing. So as soon as I did it, I was like, get me painkillers, get this organised. And then my phone by this point was on about 10% battery. I do have a battery pack, but it had run out unexpectedly. I thought it had another charge in it, the day before. So my phone was, which I wasn't worried before I fell, because I knew we were going to Dutchman Stern and it had power, and I was expecting it to only be another 2 hours away. So I, knew that I would have power. So I didn't worry about my phone going flat until this moment. And then I said to Sarah, like, I didn't have reception where I was laying on the ground, so I gave her my phone. Hers was completely flat, and I told her to go up the hill, find reception, call Hannah and Courtney, and then I just kind of laid there waiting for her to come back. And then I knew we carried this personal locator beacon, and I was kind of umming and ahhing, and Sarah talked to the girls, let them know what was going on, and we made a decision.
So, guys, that's going to be all for part 1, just to keep you in suspense. So, yeah, we have a situation where you have only a group of 2, one person who's never been backpacking before at all, so not confident on navigating any of those type of things, total first newbie.
In a different country.
We have Kirsty here, flat on her back, with a serious injury.
And gone into shock, because I was shivering my little heart out.
Yeah, so did you have any jelly beans?
I told her that Sarah got me some food. I didn't have any sugary food, but I think I had a muesli bar.
Well, better than nothing, I guess.
And 4 blankets.
Yeah, so, serious injury, flat on her back, 10% phone battery, like, can you get any worse? So guys, we will leave you there for this part 1, but in 1 fortnight's time, so on Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time here in Australia, will be part 2, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, thank you, Kirsty, and we'll see you again for part 2.
Thank you.